Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Creation show. I'm your host, Rebecca Boswell, and as always, we'll be looking at how choice creates, that choice creates, and different possibilities for creating a life and a living that can actually work for you. So today, the day after Thanksgiving, a day of giving thanks in the United States, we are going to be exploring the topic of gratitude, and more specifically, living as gratitude. And to have this conversation today, we are joined by the ever lovely Sarah Andros, who is calling in and speaking to us from Australia. She is yes, awesome. She is a life design coach, and also has a life creation program that she is getting really excited to launch in 2019. So without any further ado, Sarah, welcome to the show on gratitude and living as gratitude.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Well, it is such a pleasure. You and I have played together several times over the last several years, and every time that we come together, I have so much fun. So you are an expert in play and also an expert in gratitude, and really, like, you have a real gift with acknowledgement and expressing gratitude in a bunch of different ways in your everyday life. There's a joie de vivre that you live by, and so when I was looking at doing something on this topic around this time, you popped, and it was like, yes, let's go play there. So I'm so excited to have you today, and I was hoping we could start just simply with the question of, what is gratitude in your world? And, what is it that you can invite us to begin perceiving around everything that is possible with the energies of gratitude?
Absolutely. And firstly, I want to thank you for acknowledging me. So I'm going to start with some gratitude to you. It's been very up in my world, the whole concept of gratitude. And I see how sometimes when we forget to live as gratitude and we don't remember to be grateful for things, how things don't actually go as smoothly as we would like. And I guess for me, the gratitude piece actually gets me out of judgment. So if I'm having an interesting day, or I might have some points of view about myself, if I'm able to be grateful for myself and grateful for the things that are around me, whether it be, for example, I'm sitting here in my apartment looking out onto the river of Perth. There are beautiful sailing yachts. It's a blue sky. There's a couple of clouds, and the green grass and the trees in front of me is like one of the most amazing views. And it's like, wow, if I sat here without being grateful for that, it's like, how much more can I receive when I am grateful for it? You know what I mean? And the same is for other things, like the fact that I have these amazing clients that come to me. If I don't acknowledge the gratitude that I have for them, then they tend to not come. So there's an element of receiving that is increased when we're willing to be grateful.
Yeah, it's funny, it's like being grateful or gratitude itself. So I perceive a difference actually in gratitude and being grateful.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and it's almost like we can check the box with gratitude, and make it look like gratitude, smell like gratitude, taste like gratitude. But it doesn't necessarily actually include being grateful.
True story.
And you're talking about really being present. So it's like taking gratitude and then being so really present with it that it becomes what you're being in that moment.
Absolutely. I love that distinction you've given, because it's like you can say, yeah, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. And there's an energy of being a little bit detached and not necessarily being really engaged with what it is. And though when you're willing to be grateful, it's a state of being. You are being gratitude, like you said. And in that state of being, I'm not sure how to put it in words other than there's a sense of ease and a sense of peace and even a sense of joy that comes because you recognize that you have so much. And when we eliminate that part is when we start to, you know, maybe be dissatisfied or maybe question things. And I've always found that coming back to that place of being grateful for even the simplest of things allows us to have a lot more and does create that ease.
Yeah, it's, you know, and it's that thing of like the more you give, the more you receive, where, you know, you're not running out of any, you know, it's like you're actually perpetually creating more by engaging in the exercise of gratitude, or in the being of gratitude, or, you know, in the giving of acknowledgement.
Very true.
There's an abundance of gratitude in acknowledgement.
Absolutely.
I mean, there doesn't have to be, and it's like you don't have to be grateful to acknowledge, but like,
it's actually,
what is it?
Yeah, I find it the other way around, because if you're willing
Yeah.
to acknowledge something, the gratitude kind of shows up. Like if I didn't
Yes.
acknowledge the things that are around me, then I'm actually eliminating the gratitude that's possible there through that acknowledgement.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guess
It's tricky there.
it's all right. It's like a little bit of a like, it's like maybe everything is the opposite of what it appears to be.
Yes, that is
And
also a true story.
To add to the piece on gratitude is that when we are creating things, let's say we're creating a project or a program, or we're looking to, not sure, whatever it is that we're looking to create, sometimes we get really frustrated because in the moment right now it's not showing up. Now, when we go to that place and we judge what's not there, is when we eliminate being grateful for what is there and what we have created. And as such, we actually stunt the creation of what we're creating. We stunt that possibility. So what I'm seeing more and more is that if we are willing to acknowledge what has been changing so far, what's been showing up so far, what we've actually created, even if it's just an idea, through acknowledging that and then in turn being grateful, it can continue to flow as a project or a program or whatever it is. Yeah. So you can see, like, the bigger picture is that sometimes we get really like impatient. That wouldn't be just me, I hope. And we're like, it's not
well,
showing
I'm sure
up.
I've never experienced it.
Exactly right. And it's like we get really frustrated, but then when we can go, hang on a minute, what have I actually created? And through recognizing, okay, I'll be grateful for what I have now, and that'll open the doors to more showing up. And I find that piece is really important.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I mean, it's like, you know, some people may want to like do one thing and then just have that be it for the rest of their lives, right? Like, and then we'd say, oh, they're resting on their laurels, or whatever expression you might use. But this is actually then what sometimes happens is people go sort of the other extreme, where they are constantly chasing the next thing without actually acknowledging and being grateful for what has been created. So it's
Absolutely.
like, you know, it's like, oh, I need to do this. And then they've done it, but there's no celebration. There's no gratitude. There's no acknowledgement of that creation. It's already, well, once it's done, it's gone. It doesn't count anymore. Now it's the next thing. And so there's this, you know, you know, it's one thing to have forward momentum and to, you know, keep going and be ever evolving, ever creating, ever greater, you know, to be greater than yesterday. But it's not out of this dissatisfaction for what is. It's more of like generated from the gratitude for what is. Like, wow, like I was able to create this, look at this, and now, gee, okay, well, if this is possible, you know, how fun, what else can we create? What else can we choose?
Absolutely.
You know, how can we harness this and generate it even further? So it's not discounting anything. It's actually perpetually including everything that has already been. So you're never like trying to get away from something. You're always kind of bringing it all with you as part of a larger and larger and larger creation.
True story. It's interesting because sometimes when I'm working with clients, they'll talk about things and it's almost like they're, like you're saying, dismissing what they've done so far. And then I say to them, okay, so when you started coming about, you know, in a year or so ago or 2 years ago, would that have been a possibility in this conversation that we're having? And they're like, oh, no. I was like, so what if you could be grateful and acknowledge you for the change that you've created so far? Rather than dismissing that and still striving for the more. So it's that the capacity to go, well, actually, wow, look at what I am creating, look at what I can create. And through the acknowledgement and the gratitude for that, you can actually receive a whole lot more.
Yeah. So here's let's throw a little kink in this. So here we are you're in Australia, and of course there are people listening from all around the world, which I'm so grateful for. See how I did that? And in the US, so everyone who's listening in the US, this is the week of Thanksgiving, and so it is tradition for a lot of people to get together with family. Now, with family, we can have lots of wonderful things, and then we can also have some kind of interesting things that show up. And what I find often is that when those more interesting things show up, sometimes people have expectations of, you know, what people in their lives should be like, or what they maybe would hope they would be like, or, you know, some sort of fantasy of what could possibly occur if only this person ...
Yep.
But, you know, people are going to be what they're going to be. And so what are some ways that we can find gratitude for people and maybe even situations that fall short of our expectations, but if we can go beyond that, could actually still be a source, a generative source for gratitude in our lives? How
Absolutely.
can we approach that?
Well, what I would love to start with is that gratitude and judgment can't exist together. So whether it be an expectation or a judgment of a person or a judgment of a family member of what they are or they are not doing, for as long as you're judging them, you're not going to be able to be grateful for them. So if you're willing to go, wow, what's one thing that I can be grateful for here? Even if it's just one thing, that's enough to flip you out of the judgment and out of the expectation and allow that energy of gratitude to flow in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And not just the person. Like if you're having a lovely meal, I'm not sure, we don't do Thanksgiving. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It would be good to have Thanksgiving every day. My interesting point of view is that it would be great. Good to just have that element of gratitude all day. But hey, I love that you celebrate it and take holidays for it. You know, you might be sitting around the dinner table or the lunch table and having a meal, and maybe there are people that are from your family that it's not really, there's not that energy of, you know, feeling like they're matching your expectations or your judgments. And what if you could go, okay, so what can I be grateful for here? And ask that question. So what could I be grateful for? And sometimes through asking the question, it actually invites something that you might not have even seen or perceived about the person to show up as a source of gratitude. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, it's really interesting when when we're only looking at what's not there, how that
Right.
can so massively color what we're willing, what we're even willing to see.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a conversation with a client, and I was saying, if you have to stop overnight on your travels in a motel, and you're going in and the sheets are clean, but everything else is kind of not the Four Seasons, and you can spend the whole time hemming and hawing, complaining that it's not the Four Seasons, or you can just really enjoy those clean sheets and the fact that you're not sleeping in your car, and it's never going to be what it's not. So you can choose to put all your energy on being disappointed or upset or trying to somehow make it more of what you want it to be, or you can actually just acknowledge what it is and see how it can gift you in that moment, and let go of the rest. But then you might
Totally
be a
true.
lot happier. So
It's
you might not
yeah.
want that.
No, it's a really good point. Like, nothing is perfect, and I when I'm working with couples, I had a couple recently do a 4-day class with me, and I could see how the female was really struggling with some of the things that the male was or wasn't doing or being.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I could also see how much he truly cared for her and how much of an effort he was making. And so when I spoke to them individually, I was able to say, okay, talk to her about what she was looking for in him. And then I was also acknowledging him and saying, like, you really care for her, hey? And he's like, yeah, I really do. And it's like, well, to identify the ways in which he was caring for her, even though they didn't match her expectations or her judgment, actually allowed her to soften and receive him. So that acknowledgement of him and allowing her to then have great gratitude for what he was being, not the judgment of what he wasn't being, actually shifted the dynamic in their relationship. It was fantastic to watch, because you could see where she was functioning from a place of, a little bit of barriers up, like, yeah, he doesn't do this and he doesn't do this. And it's like, great. That's like saying, okay, the walls are dirty and the carpet's dirty, and yet the
Right.
sheets are really clean and the bed's really
Right.
comfortable, right? So similar deal can apply
Yeah.
in a relationship as well.
Yeah. Well, and everywhere that we look, where is it that we're putting our attention? What thoughts are we, are we luxuriating in? What
What
what are
points
we
of view do we
making
have?
real?
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what points of view are we making, are we using to guide how we look? What choices are we making, and what is that creating?
totally.
What are the beliefs, what are the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions that are steering those choices?
And actually eliminating gratitude. I
Yeah.
mean, if you have a point of view that someone is a particular way, then you kind of keep them in that, you bind them to being that. You don't allow them to be anything else from your perspective. But when you're willing to go, well, okay, what would it take for me to be grateful for this person? Somehow it just sort of softens and starts to eliminate the points of view and the judgments that we have of them, so that we can actually see something that maybe we hadn't been willing to see.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
love
and one
that.
of our barrier, I mean, because even just when you're saying that, you can really even just perceive the energy of a person, being very hard, barriers up, guarded, maybe protective, um, and that gratitude, there's that softness. There's almost a vulnerability to it. It's like you kind of let all those sort of solid judgments and barriers and walls, you let them loosen, and a wall, it can keep things out, but it also, I mean, it can keep you maybe say so you perceive, but it also keeps things that you'd like from coming in.
Yeah.
So it works both ways. Not
Yeah.
always, and that's not always a contribution.
Well, when you have your walls up, you're creating separation. Though when you're grateful, it starts to eliminate, like you say, that separation. It allows people to receive one another. I mean, if we look at even, different cultures or different religions, the thing that keeps the separation is the judgment, so the points of view. Okay. And then if you go, well, what if we could just be grateful that we all exist here, no matter where we're from, no matter our religion, no matter the color of our skin, the gratitude is the piece that can actually allow that to change.
Yeah.
It's quite a magical piece, the old gratitude.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
It almost deserves more than just one day, don't you think?
Absolutely. That's what I reckon.
What would it take? So what are some things that that as we were practicing, I mean, we've kind of already alluded to and pointed at quite a number of things, but let's kind of tease them out and kind of highlight them a little bit more clearly. So for anybody who's listening, who would like to really practice and increase their expression of gratitude, really slipping into the energies of being and living as gratitude, what are some things that they can begin incorporating in their day today?
Well, one of the things that I mean, I've heard of this concept for years and years, is to literally let's list 10 things that I'm grateful for right now. I used to do it with my kids when they were arguing. Actually, they'd be arguing and I'm like, okay, stop, let's go here. What's 10 things you can be grateful for? And as they started listing off the things that they were grateful for, it totally distracted them from the argument. So it's very pragmatic. And if you wake up and you're feeling a bit wonky, or maybe you're worrying about money, or you're worrying about this, or you're worrying about that, if you were to list down the 10 things that you can be grateful for, and right there in that moment, I guarantee that you will have a different headspace by the time you've written it. So just the acknowledgement of the things that you can be grateful for that are right there, right now. Whether it be the sunshine, it might be the fresh air, it might be that you have a beautiful somewhere to live, where you have a bed where you can sleep, you have food in the fridge, that you have friends who care for you. Those things are not to go unnoticed,
Yeah.
So
that you're alive to make a list.
Totally. and I guess then you could, you could actually ask, what are some ways I could invite more gratitude into my life? And ask yourself, what would it take? What would it take to be more grateful? What would it take to live as gratitude? What is living as gratitude for me? Because the way that I do it is going to be different to the way that other people do it. So what is living as gratitude for me? And it may be like, for me, I love to go out in nature and just acknowledge that the nature around me and the gratitude that I have for that. But that might not be everybody's cup of tea. Some people might, I don't know, go to a nice restaurant and be grateful for the food, and grateful for the chef, and grateful for the person serving, and grateful for the wine or whatever it is. There's different ways of appreciating and having gratitude. So find the things that allow you to live more and more as gratitude, and have fun with it too.
And have fun with it. That's the living part.
Totally. And actually on that topic, when we are grateful, life does seem to be more fun, because when we're grateful, we're not complaining about things, we're not wondering about things, we're actually like, wow, this is going on for me, I have this, and I have this, and I have this, and it's like, cool. And there's an aliveness that comes with the act of being grateful, and the choice to have gratitude. And that's probably like you're saying, like the living part is that, wow, I'm alive, I can be grateful, I have a heartbeat. Simple things that people may laugh at, your acknowledgement of them allow you to live a greater life.
So for people, so if there's anyone who is in a space right now where it just feels really tough to be grateful, right? Or to hear this and be like, yeah, but you don't know my story, right? Like, because let's be honest, we've all had moments like that, right? And sometimes it, you know, it takes a little bit of choice and continuing to choose to get to a place where, you know, where you can shift it. So if someone is, you know, experiencing some resistance in this area, or struggling with letting those barriers down, or
changing
the willingness to release judgment. Yeah. What are some ways to begin even just cultivating a space where this is more available to them?
Well, there's a couple of things that come straight to mind. And one of them is like when we buy the story as the only option and we buy our story as the only choice, we kind of stick ourselves in that story. And one question I use with people, and it's kind of like it's a little bit of an edgy question, though the willingness to go here is something that can actually catapult you beyond it. It's like, well, if I wasn't buying this story as real and true, what's beyond it? Because rather than sit in the story and keep being in the story, it's like, well, what's beyond this? What's beyond? And merely through asking the question of, if I wasn't buying this story as real, what's beyond it? There are possibilities, or even a space, as you say, that starts to show up. And another thing that I would say, unless you wanted to expand on that, it's up to you. Another thing that I would say is, what I'd like you to do is actually go back to a time when you were really grateful, something that you were incredibly grateful for, and see how that felt in your body, and get a sense of just that feeling, that space, the energy of gratitude. And then what if you could actually invite that to be more and more, like turn up the volume of that. And then on an energetic level, what if you could ask that energy not only to fill up into your body, but what if you could flood that energy of gratitude into your future? And what if you could ask that anything that matches the energy that would create that level of gratitude and that sense of peace that comes with the gratitude to show up? Because if you are able to change the energy of something, you're able to change anything. And I'm sure in everyone's lives, there's been at least one moment where they've been really, truly grateful. So if you can acknowledge that energy, and you can tap into that energy, and you can expand it in your body, because our bodies it's really important that we feel things in our bodies, because that's the aliveness. We have bodies, right? And then if you can then take that energy and go, okay, here you go. Flood it like a tsunami into your future. Then what starts to occur, as if by magic, is that you start to pull things towards you that match that, versus being negative and complaining and being grumpy and cranky. That's what you're going to pull in. Have you ever been to a supermarket, and you're in a really delightful, joyful, really grateful space, and the person that's serving you is matching that energy, and they can't do enough for you? Versus going into the supermarket and you're having not such a great day and you're a bit cranky, and then you end up with a really grumpy checker. Someone at the checkout. It's like the energy that you're being is what you will create in the world. So if you're willing, even for a little bit, to acknowledge the possibility of the gratitude from a time you've had before, you start to become a different resonant frequency, and as such you magnetize that sort of energy to you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm picturing is, walking through your day and, what are you magnetized to? Are you drawing and attracting to you all the things that are, grumpy and sour and proving to you that you are correct, that everything is terrible? Or are you, right? Or are you actually, are you seeing, are you seeing the things that, that bring you joy and that are beautiful, and, that you really can be truly grateful for, and bringing those to you. And it's like, you're going to get exactly what you ask for. You're going to get exactly what you desire. So
Totally.
Which program are you running?
Which wolf are you going to feed, right?
Exactly. And, it occurred to me too, while you were speaking, that question too, of like, what's the value of this? So not to sit and marinate in the problem, but it's like, you know what? You could always just be grateful for that. Like, look it, like, I'm choosing to be miserable, and wow, there's this value to it. And I'm so grateful that I can choose this. And look, I get this great solution to my problem. Now I'm also aware of it. Okay, I can even be grateful now to be aware that there is a whole pantheon of infinite choices that I could make, and I can keep choosing this forever and a day if I like, and I can also choose something else if that would be something I would like to do.
And it's interesting, because I actually had quite a wonky moment this morning, and I reminded myself that sometimes when we are having the greatest moments of discomfort is literally a short time before something big changes in our lives. And so not ever to go to that place of wrongness, of that uncomfortable, and rather, like you're saying, well, what if I could be even grateful for this? What if I could even be grateful for these wobbly, wonky times when all sorts of things are shaking up in my universe? And often, like I say, it leads to something greater. What if it actually is the change you've been asking for, and yet it's kind of showing up in a way that you hadn't expected it? So
yeah. And I mean, how often does that happen? We have this idea of how things should show up to be the way that we wanted them, and yet things come in sideways, and yet it turns out in a much different way, and still is completely what you were asking for.
Absolutely.
Like,
we can't really control the way the universe is delivering it. She's gonna give it to us. We can try.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It sometimes leaves more marks that way.
Yeah. And I guess, sometimes we're so focused on the outcome of what we'd like to do or create or whatever it is, rather than being grateful for the steps along the way, even if the steps along the way seemed like a distraction or something that was actually deterring us from what we'd like to do. It's each of those little pieces that actually create things in the end. I mean, I've got lots of examples I could give where it's like, wow, I was almost ready to give up, or, having a sense of despair. And then I was like, okay, so what's beyond this, right? And then there it is. There it is right there. So having gratitude for the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, and knowing that it's all part and parcel of life.
Yeah, and it's such a it's so powerful when we get to those places, right? It's like we get to these, there's so many different ways that it's been described by different people, but sometimes we get to these places where we're at the upper reach of our thermostat, or it's our our upper limit, or there's some perceived barrier or this ceiling that that we've decided is there, and we start to approach it, and it's like, oh, now we need to get more comfortable and try to step back down to what we know or where it works, whether we sabotage ourselves, or create something in our bodies, or whatever it is. And yet, if instead of getting to that place where all of a sudden it's like, ooh, it's uncomfortable, the air is getting thin, I need to go back down where it's more comfortable. if we could actually just hang out there a little bit and really go into gratitude in that space and expand our energy and expand into that gratitude right there, it actually can create that space that allows us to go through, when you're talking about going beyond, actually go through whatever that perceived limit or that barrier, whatever that is.
Absolutely.
To come out into a different, and that's that greater space, greater than yesterday. It's like this space that wasn't available before, willing to go through that barrier.
Well, it's also like the moving through is where you stop being at the effect of whatever it is, and you start being the affect, you start being the energy that creates a difference rather than being at the effect of it. And you just reminded me of something too. Often, there's that concept of call a friend, right? When if I find myself in that sort of place, I always end up reaching out to someone who's grateful for me. When we reach out to someone who's grateful for us, they don't really have judgments of us. And I'm sure that each and every one of us hopefully has at least one person who you would classify someone who doesn't have judgment of you and is grateful for you. So when you pick up the phone and you speak to them or you go and see them, the space that they be for you is the place of no judgment. So they're already inviting you to beyond where you're at right in that moment. You know what I'm saying? So, I have a lovely friend of mine who's in LA, and I have another girlfriend here local to me in Perth, and I'll just drop a quick message. Hey, you got 5 minutes? Yep, cool. Get on the phone. And just being able to speak to someone who knows who I am and is grateful for me allows me to go, oh my gosh, what am I doing? That was a bit of a nutty choice. Cool. And it allows me to flip out of it. So yeah, if you've got someone in your world who doesn't judge you and accepts you no matter what, it's always nice to reach out to them and have a conversation if it's possible.
Yeah. And you were talking before about sort of that resonant frequency, right? And it's like, if you've lost, it's like you've lost your presets on the radio and you have to tune back in. And so sometimes calling someone who can tap into that energy of you so quickly, right, and show you, remind you, oh yeah, right, this is the channel. Oh yeah, right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, good. I got it again. Okay. Right. Thank you.
I was speaking Chinese. Now we're speaking English. Phew.
Whew, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so all those places too, when you think about it, all those places where we can offer our gratitude or acknowledgement of others, how much, whether we even realize it or not, we are inviting them to tune into the possibility of embracing the greatness and that we perceive as possible, even if they're not perceiving it initially. So, we have great power. We have great power and possibility with this wonderful tool of gratitude. So Sarah, what else, is there anything else that you'd like to add here about, I think this has been an amazing conversation talking about what it is and, ways to cultivate it and to access it even in the trickier times. Is there anything else popping for you that you would like to shed light on around this topic for our viewers, for our listeners today, I guess, seeing as they don't see our live faces, they're seeing us static there on the screen.
We're playing hide and seek.
And, I'll just say real quick, my gratitude for this whole episode and how it's come about, being in 2 different time zones and with the holiday here and with all of the classes you're teaching. I know you've moved offices. And so there's, you know, we're both creating so much. There are so many things going on. And so to be able to just make it work and to have fun with you, even when, it doesn't look the way it usually does. This is our first episode in 4 seasons and however many, over 100 episodes. It's the first one where it's pretty much audio. So how does it get any better?
How does it get better? It's
so
like I don't have a body.
It just means we're everywhere.
We are everywhere. And the thing that I desire to add probably is that it's really important to remember the body.
Yeah.
Like we can often get caught up in our mind and, get caught up in that the crazy monkey mind. And at the same time, doing things and having appreciation and gratitude from the body can allow us to get out of the mind. Again, it sounds strange though, involving your body and maybe going for a walk or doing some form of movement, I've found for me is something that allows me, number one, to be grateful that I even have a body. Number two, to be grateful that I can even walk or do whatever it is that I can do with my body. And number three, giving to the body actually builds gratitude for life. I find it's really important to make sure you also do things and include your body in your life. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some ways that you like to include your body in this gratitude practice?
Sure. So one of the things
and how do you show gratitude for your body as well?
Totally. So one of the things I learnt 25 years ago, I guess, because I got really, really sick, is to be really grateful for, I guess, the choice of foods that we have these days, because this experience left me, I had chronic fatigue and I wasn't very well, and I found that I was really restricted with what I could eat. So now when I eat different foods and I can eat whatever it is that I like pretty much anymore, it's like this amazing gratitude for being able to enjoy food. And I'm sure there's a few foods, so being able to ask my body and then give it what it loves and enjoy food is something, way of including my body and the gratitude piece. And then
Absolutely.
also, like I said, the movement part, there's an energy that goes, like, you can exercise and that's one thing, though really all the body truly desires and requires is movement. So when you can be grateful for the things that your body can do, rather than focus on the things that it can't do, then you'll have more of that. So, I love to rollerblade, for example, like it's one of my favorite things. So whenever I get my rollerblades on, my body is like alive, and there's a gratitude that comes because I'm listening to what it's asking for. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to move. Okay, cool. This morning I got up and went for a beautiful walk along the river in the sunshine. And again, I could sense that my body was grateful because I was listening to it. So that's the people I'm talking about, where we actually are engaging with our body and the body can be grateful. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And the word that keeps popping for me as you're speaking is honoring. And you're just, there's just a real honoring of your body and an honoring of it. It goes both ways, actually. Yeah. So, that and being in a place, a willingness to be in a space of gratitude, all of these things are just so intricately intertwined, and one sort of feeds the other.
Absolutely. I mean, without a body, we wouldn't really be here, right? So it's really important to include the body in this conversation. It's your body that requires, the clothes that you wear, the food that you eat, wherever you sleep. It might like to have a car or whatever it is. And when we can engage with the body and have that energy of gratitude with and for the body, as you say, both ways, it does create for a more joyful life.
Yeah. And much more to be grateful for.
Totally.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Funny. Gratitude builds
yeah.
more gratitude.
Yes, yes. Cool. So, well, Sarah, thank you so, so much for, for having this chat with me. And I wonder after listening to this, I wonder whose practice will deepen. I wonder what new possibilities have become available, and will even percolate beyond having listened to this. So thank you so much for being a part of this creation. And Sarah, can you just tell us a little bit about just a sneak peek? I know it hasn't been launched yet, but can you give us a little sneak peek into what's coming up in 2019, and then just also let us know how we can find you and contact you and have more of you for anybody who
I like that. Have more of me.
Would like to reach out. Yes.
Thank you. Well, yeah, look, the life design program is literally that. A lot of people go to default when it comes to their life. They don't believe that they have choice. So they're just going with whatever shows up in their life. And the idea of the life design program, it's a 6-month program, is an ongoing program that allows people to really explore the possibility of designing their life rather than being at the effect of it. You are the affect. You start to create your life. You start to look at what it is that you truly like to add to your life, to create, and also sometimes eliminate. So it'll be a program where there'll be some one-on-one stuff, there'll be some group stuff. I'm really excited by it because I see how, I've worked with people individually, though there's a sense of something more that gets created when it's ongoing, and we can keep checking in, whether they be checking in with me personally or checking in with the group to build the energy of creation of life. So now my website is as per my name, so www.sarahandros.com. So you can see the spelling of that on the graphic here with our show. And if you like, I can also give a phone number, a Skype number, I'm not sure, but all of it is on my website anyway. So, yeah. But if you wanted to, because I'm in Australia, I find that WhatsApp is often a great way of connecting. So that would be +61 416 234 884. I'll give that again. So +61 416 234 884. So you could always add me as a contact in your WhatsApp and shoot me a message. But other than that, check out my website. There are places where you can drop me an email and we can get in touch that way.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all of that. And for those of you listening, if you don't have a pen, don't worry about it. The website will be a link in the show notes so that you can find it easily, and that WhatsApp number will also be provided for you. So you can always go back and get it when you're able to. So,
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Is there anything else, closing thoughts that you'd like to put out into the world on gratitude?
Well, I wonder what more can be created when we have gratitude. Like how much more receiving can you have when you're willing to be grateful? And what are the things that maybe you haven't been grateful for that if you were willing to be grateful for them, could create even more?
Yeah.
Go be gratitude.
I'll have that.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And may this create an ever greater ripple of gratitude and living as gratitude across the planet, the universe, infinity and beyond.
Woohoo!
And with more fun than we ever thought possible.
Exactly.
So thank you so much, Sarah, for being here. Thank you all for listening today, for being here. As always, without you, it's just us having a conversation and having you be a part of it. It makes it more fun for us, and it also, I wonder what it can create in the world. So thank you so much. Happy choosing over the course of the next week. I wonder what we will discover next. So thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.